RAF Navigator Stan Hope had to bail out of his Mosquito aircraft over Belgium due to engine failure on the 8th of December 1942. Stan describes that event and talks about how he coped with solitary confinement whilst imprisoned in France.
We were over Austria, and one of the engines packed up here, and we had to fly back on one engine. We only got as far as Belgium. Then the other engine started losing petrol. I parachuted out. So Mosquito exit was very small. Fortunately, I'm fairly small myself, so I kicked the door open, sat with legs hanging out, shook hands with Mac. He kicked me on the shoulder, and out I went. I was told to count to 10 before I pulled the cord. I counted 1, 2, 3, and that was it. I pulled it. We'd had lectures on it, but never jumped before. So it was a bit of a new experience. It was quite thrilling, actually, because I saw the plane disappear, just a glimpse of it. The chute opened with a jerk, and the next thing I noticed was the eerie silence after the plane engines. Everything was so quiet. I could hear a dog bark. I think I heard a train whistle somewhere in the distance, and I was floating down in complete silence. And I landed very gently in a field of cows that came over to see what this white thing was floating about. Anyway, I buried the parachute, stuffed it in a hedge, and I got rid of my boots. The top, they were escape boots, and you could cut the tops off so that the bottoms looked like black shoes. So that was a help. And then I had a roll-collar sweater which my mother had knitted for me, and that didn't look too official, you know. And got rid of my cap and started exploring.
Stan was rescued by a resistance organisation, but while he and other evaders were hiding in a safe house, they were captured by the Germans.
I remember I had a little penknife in my hand, and I was cutting the bread, and there was a roar of motors and sounds of shouting, and next minute there were German soldiers clumping up the stairs, and the door burst open, and a gun came through the door, and a very nervous looking German behind it, and I put this knife down as slowly as I could. What had happened was that some little farmhand had betrayed us, and we were caught and taken down to Bayonne and put in prison. We were separated, of course, solitary confinement, interrogated individually, beaten up. We were scared stiff all the time. We thought when we were first caught we were lined up against the wall and told we were going to be shot. Then eventually they took the 4 of us up to Bordeaux, and then they took us to Paris, and that was put in solitary in Fresnes Prison, and that was under the Gestapo, and that was not very pleasant. I reckoned up altogether I did about 115 days solitary the whole time I was in prison. How I kept myself sane I don't really know. I did find in Fresnes a bit of metal under the bed, and it must have had some lead in it because it could write on the wall, and I wrote all sorts of things, poems and plans and meals and everything I could think of. I went back over my RAF service and tried to remember the names of all the people I knew in the squadron and wrote them down on the wall and rubbed them out and wrote them. Kept myself going that way, and fighting fleas. We had fleas everywhere, trying to kill fleas. The meals were terrible. We got ersatz coffee in the morning, bread and soup at midday, and ersatz coffee again in the evening, and that was all. We were so hungry we spent most of our time leaning against the door waiting for the food to come. I was threatened with torture. They told me they would take me down to the cellar and I would eventually talk. And I don't know. I'd lied so many times and told so many stories, and I just couldn't face anymore, I think. He could get answers out of you, you didn't even know you'd given them away. Anyway, I was eventually released to a glove clearing house for POWs.
Please help to rescue and preserve more memories of the Second World War. Visit www.war-experience.org.